Entering the atmosphere in T minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello everyone and welcome to the Omega Metroid podcast from OmegaMetroid.com. My name is Andy Spiteri, joined as always by Doom Little Crossing. Doom, what's going on, man? How are you?
Pretty good. I was just telling you behind the scenes while we were troubleshooting that I'm starting to get more. I'm trying to discipline myself to learn how to cook up a little bit more. Most of my life I'll just reheat something in the microwave, air fry something, or go out to eat. But yeah, I'm trying to discipline myself to learn how to cook a little bit more at the ripe age of 31. And today I actually I made a pretty major step. I think I made my first homemade chicken hamburgers, and they were quite delicious. Target, where I go shopping, they just got these new pretzel buns, and so I decided to test those out. I toasted the bottom of those, did a garlic dry rub on the top, Cajun rub on the bottom of the patty, a little pepper jack cheese, some jalapenos, some barbecue sauce, and yeah, those were quite delicious. So we just ate those before we went live, and I'm energized and ready to talk about some Switch 2, baby.
Hey, shout out to your culinaries. You know what? I didn't tell you this before, but do you want to hear like the most pathetic story you've ever heard in your life?
Oh, absolutely. Let's go.
Okay, so as you probably, or maybe you know this, maybe you don't, but so me and Sam, my wife right now, we're down to one car because we're still waiting for the other car to get fixed and all that kind of stuff. And so that means that on the weekend she went to her mom's and I was here by myself, and I was like, oh wait a sec, I don't, there's nothing to eat here. Like there's, we don't have any leftovers from the day before. Like I don't really feel like making anything. You want to hear what I had for lunch on Saturday?
Oh, what'd you have for lunch?
I ended up making about 25 tater tots, and that was my lunch.
Let's go.
So you're going one way, and I'm going the other way, unfortunately for me. But yeah, no, it was, you know what? It was a nice lunch nonetheless. And I can't say that I didn't enjoy my 25 tater tots. So for all you bachelors out there, it doesn't really change after you get married. You keep on making what you're going to make for lunch.
Hey, sometimes a batch of tots, it might not be what the doctor ordered, but sometimes you just need it.
That is true. Well, I will tell you what, we shan't dilly-dally here. We finally got some news about the long-rumored Nintendo Switch 2. And, yeah, you know what? So, I kind of don't know. I guess my immediate thought after the reveal went out was like, I feel a little bit underwhelmed a little bit by the announcement, because I mean it was it was fine, but it wasn't anything with that I was thinking that it would be. It was exactly what I kind of thought it wouldn't be, actually, which is just like a random drop on social media. And I have to think that like all the leaks and all the rumors and all the nonsense that was swirling around, like I have to think that was just like Nintendo was like, okay, enough, let's just reveal it so that we could at least promote like the next big thing that's coming their way, which is of course this Direct, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But yeah, you know what? It's we'll talk about the Switch 2. We'll talk about everything surrounding it. We'll talk about the look, the name, what we think the price is, some of the stuff that was shown off. I guess just immediate thoughts though to the actual like reveal of the Switch 2 itself.
I'm kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum. This is pretty much exactly what I was expecting, which I do agree, very underwhelming for the most part, but I feel like this is kind of what I was expecting, because with the Switch 1, when we were going from the Wii U to the NX, as it was called at the time, we didn't really know what to expect. And the NX was like a brand new concept that Nintendo had to sell. The Switch 2, we kind of already know what it's going to be. It's going to be a more powerful Switch.
Yeah.
You can't really do the exact same marketing campaign that you do with the NX, because it's like, we all know how the features work now. We know how the Switch works, so therefore we pretty much know roughly how the Switch 2 is going to work. There's like small details here and there, like, the theoretical mouse stuff that we'll talk about later, how the backward compatibility functions, that mystery C button that was photoshopped out in the trailer we'll also talk about. There's minor details, but like for the most part, you know how the Switch works, you know how the Switch 2 is gonna work, and so you can't really do that same kind of reveal trailer where you show people off, because it's like it's just gonna be the same thing over again. And so I think like just a rough hardware overview video that very, very clearly shows that this is not a Switch 1 upgrade. This is a brand new console from scratch. They make that explicitly clear in the trailer in various points.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. Like they really did hammer home like this is the second Switch. There's no doubts to be had. And I actually agree with you. Like I think that this is kind of like the classic scenario where I think that two things can be true at the same time, where it's like, I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the presentation of the Switch 2 Direct, but at the same time, it pretty much is exactly what I want. So like, am I disappointed? No. I think what I was looking for, and what I kind of expect from Nintendo, is a little bit of that whimsy, a little bit of razzle dazzle, like a little bit of showmanship when it comes to announcing this. And granted, they had a very, very well produced video that showed off some of the changes between the base model Switch and the Switch 2. But I don't know. It did kind of feel. It did kind of feel a little bit pedestrian. Maybe is the word for it, which sounds kind of unfair, but. I don't know. I feel like there's something to having like this big, even if your product isn't changing that much, which we all expected it wouldn't. I do kind of feel like there is like something to be said about having like a big build up and a big pomp and circumstances about the big reveal behind the Switch 2. I don't know. I guess like who am I? But I would have done it maybe just like a little bit differently, because the way that Nintendo releases video to me was just kind of like. It was underwhelming, and it seemed to me like they only released it because there was a million leaks flying around, and that's probably exactly what happened, to be honest. But I think I still would have done something a little bit different.
So I actually don't think the leaks definitely made an impact on Nintendo. I don't think they changed how this thing is going to be released. Nintendo usually doesn't operate like that. They usually stick to their guns pretty heavily. I do think the leaks impacted it in the sense that like. I mean, literally, like pretty much everything from the console design to the C button to the Joycon mice and all that, pretty much all that stuff that was leaked was like 100% true. And so when we all saw that in the video, it's like, yeah, oh yeah, I've seen this before. It's like the Marty McFly meme. It's like, oh yeah, I remember that. I've seen this before.
Yeah, well, I mean, like, you got to hand it to not all leaks are credible, but the leaks that came out in the immediate, a couple of days, I guess, before the Switch 2 was revealed, those did look to be pretty bang on. So a lot of people had good information there. But yeah, so I mean, it kind of for me was just like the reveal was kind of like, yeah, but at the same time though. It pretty much is exactly what I was wanting, which is like a more powerful version of the Switch with some big time quality of life upgrades here. So, what I was kind of thinking, I guess we could, I'll play the trailer over on my end. I won't play it for everyone else to see watching us on YouTube here, but I'll play it over on my end and maybe just kind of walk us through some of the differences, and we could talk as much or as little as we want to about some of those different things, if that sounds like a plan to you.
The last thing I'll say before we get into that is I feel like the saving grace for me for the trailer is the announcement of that April Direct afterwards.
Yes.
Which on one hand you could argue it's like, oh, really, another couple months and a half away, and it's like, yeah, it's kind of far away, but at the same time, it's going to be here before we know it. I'm 31. Years feel like days now, and so it'll be here. Like I said, before I know it, knowing that we are for sure going to have a full blowout presentation on April 2nd with more information, with software, which is the whole reason we're buying this thing in the first place. Knowing that we do have that on the horizon and that we don't have to like guess and wait for it, that for me is like the saving grace of the reveal. If it weren't for that, I would also be like, bro, really? That's it? 110%.
I'm totally with you. I think that was a really good move for Nintendo to do. One, I mean, it's just going to build, and it's going to be fun, right? Predicting what might be at that, what games we might see, like that's just fun stuff to predict that kind of, that's what I enjoy rather than predicting like specs and, whatever for the Switch 2. But I mean, by God, it was nice of Nintendo to give us a heads up. You know what? I like, literally, I went in and I was like, can I book April 2nd off work? I can. I have the day free. So I booked it off, and by God, I'll be live streaming it over on Omega Metroid's YouTube channel. So, I mean, come check it out.
I'm absolutely taking the day off. 100%.
Yeah, you, me, and Al, we'll do a Zelda Cast Omega Metroid live stream crossover. I think that'll be fun, actually. So yeah, that's what's going on. Let's go take a look at this video here, and we'll kind of point out some differences between the base model Switch and then the Switch 2. And actually, you know what? Before we even do that, I guess what we should do is just really quickly talk about. I mean, it pretty much looks like it's set in stone that this thing is just called the Switch 2. I guess they could reveal a different name for it, but the video is called Switch 2. The logo Switch 2.
Yeah, it's on the console. It is the Nintendo Switch 2 because it is the second Nintendo Switch, and Nintendo doesn't want you to forget that.
And you know what? Fair enough. That's probably a good idea from Nintendo to really hammer home. I think we all remember the Wii to Wii U confusion, so that's probably a pretty solid marketing tactic, if a somewhat unspectacular name. Again, gets the point across. It's not as fun as like the Super Switch or I don't know, some of the other names that we had dreamed up, but it's functional.
Yeah, I think the logo was the correct decision to make, especially like making the two very big. I think it's a very boring, almost even fan-made looking. I remember when that logo first leaked, and I was like, "There's no way that's official. That's clearly a mock-up, clearly fan-made." Nope, that is the actual logo for the console, and I mean, it does. It gets the point across. It's kind of boring, but it's also the right decision. I think. I think it would have been really cool if they like incorporated the Joy-Cons into like a Roman numeral too. I think that would have looked cool, but I also think that would have been the wrong decision, because that could have made, if it blended in too much with the Switch logo, that could have caused more confusion. So I think kind of encapsulates our thoughts on the reveal as a whole, where it's like kind of boring, kind of expected, but also definitely the right choice.
You know what? Thank God that they didn't at least do like Nintendo Switch and replace the I with two I's, or like have it like SW2TCH. That would have been rough. So yes, it's unspectacular. It's exactly what you thought it was going to be, but you know what? Sometimes that's okay. So let's go through this video here and let's just break down everything that we're seeing here, and we'll start off with the screen, because the screen is obviously significantly bigger than your Switch your Switch. Let's see how many times I mess this up. Your Switch screen. Although I don't know how much bigger that is than an OLED screen, if bigger at all. I don't know if you have any information about that.
Granted, these were all from a Samsung parts leaks, because I believe Samsung manufactures the panels for these. And so I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, chat. I'm saying this as if you're seeing this in real time. Yeah, someone in the comments can let me know if I'm wrong, but I believe the OLED screen, it's either 7 or 7.5 inches, and I want to say the Switch 2 screen, according to that Samsung manifest, was 8 inches. So it's a little bit bigger. The console itself, and then the bezels on the side are also much thinner as well, which I think looks really nice for that screen. I really like those. I really like those narrow bezels right next to the Joy-Cons like that. I think it's a really nice presentation there.
Yeah, I think that it like the console itself looks really slick. Like you can't say that it doesn't look really good.
I love the design of that. I'm actually really glad that we can talk about that later, but I'm actually really glad those leaks were true, because I think it looks quite substantially better than the Switch, actually, which is already, I think, a decent looking console.
Yeah, I like it too. And you know what? I'm sure there's going to be like a million Joy-Con variants that you'll be able to purchase at launch. So like, even if you were somewhat unsatisfied, because I mean, it is kind of a more monochrome color design there, but I'm sure they're going to have something for you at launch or shortly after, if you're just like, I need a bit more razzle dazzle in my life. So going forward here, we're watching some animations of the console here. We get our two speakers on the bottom. We've got our our USB-C charging port. Nothing really that sticks out to me there. But you're the more techie version of us.
Well, there is one very important difference is that there's actually 2 USB-C ports now. There's one not just on the bottom where it connects to the dock, but there's also one at the top now, which is very important for being able to charge while you're in tabletop mode. That's not something. I mean, you could do it before, but it was like your cable would be at an angle and it just didn't look very good. Now you have a charging port at the top as well. And so that's gonna be really substantial for tabletop and portable play. So I'm glad they added that there.
Yeah, it is like a very and I wanted to get to the top here in just a sec, but there is a second USB-C charging point. For a guy like me that plays predominantly handheld, that is really important because my from both my phone and my Switch, my USB-C port is just like mangled, or my cord rather, because you're trying to play, but it's plugged in, and it's not the most comfortable because typically if I'm playing handheld, I'll place it on my chest or something like that, or whatever, right? So I'm really glad to see that. You know what? And a lot of people pointed this out, and maybe I took this for granted, but it's probably worth mentioning too. Really cool that there's still a headphone jack in this console.
Yes.
It's actually like criminal that there's no headphone jacks in phones anymore, like modern smartphones, because there's no reason why there shouldn't be. I love that Nintendo still has this because I think it's a valuable feature. Not that I've ever had problems connecting my headphones via Bluetooth, but like if I'm, sometimes you just want to plug your, sometimes you just want to plug your headphones in. So I think that was a really cool decision as well.
Yeah, I just upgraded my phone a couple months ago to the Sony Xperia 4, and the reason that I chose that phone specifically, one of the reasons at least, was because it's one of the few phones that actually has a headphone jack.
Yeah.
And I use it too often? No, but like, man, when you need it, it comes in clutch. If you're in a friend's car and all they have is your 1/8 millimeter auxiliary jack, you're the one person that has the phone there. It can be a real lifesaver.
Well, and hey, like there's lots of times where I've been on a plane, I'm playing my Switch, and maybe my headphones don't make it throughout the flight. I don't know, but I know I can at least plug my Switch in, and that's not going to die on me. So that's one thing that I think is pretty cool. Moving on here, so the kickstand or the kick plate on the back of the Switch looks to have been vastly improved, and it looks like you can. What's the word I'm looking for? It's like adjustable, where you can basically set it to the degree that you want.
Yeah, it's more flexible now. Yeah, the kickstand got a substantial improvement, which the OLED's the OLED's kickstand was already a pretty big upgrade over the Switch One's pretty flimsy bare bones kickstand. Like that first Switch One console, I have a day one
Switch and it's terrible.
Very, very clearly rushed out the door to get that thing out as fast as possible. But this one they clearly took a lot more time with the hardware, which I think is going to be a good thing for durability in general, that they've clearly been able to take a little bit more care and time developing this. And that new kickstand is an even bigger upgrade over the OLED's already pretty big upgrade kickstand. So I think that's huge for a lot of the portable Switch owners as well.
All right, well, let's talk about these Joy-Cons for a second, because now we're at the portion of the video where it's getting the Joy-Cons are getting a little bit of love here. And the first thing, obviously that sticks out is that the Joy-Cons are mercifully bigger. There's bigger Joy-Cons, which is... I actually love playing on my Joy-Cons. Even when my Switch is docked, I'll play on Joy-Cons typically. Although I will say my Joy-Cons are drifting now, but that's neither here nor there. I really like that these are a little bit bigger, because it can be a little bit... they're small, right? And this looks to me more like holding a classic Wiimote, which I always thought was like a fine, I always thought holding that felt nice.
Yeah, not only are the Joy-Cons bigger, the buttons are also bigger, and it looks like the sticks might even be a little bit more raised too, which that to me is the buttons and the sticks in particular is going to be, I think, huge for me, because that's one of the huge reasons why I never use the Joy-Con, because like when I hold a Joy-Con, it's just like, man, I would just so much rather be holding a Pro Controller right now. Even though I love being able to like freely move my arms and just kind of place them wherever I want, I just the Pro Controller is just more comfortable for me to hold. This is going to be a big step into me becoming a Joy-Con appreciator. I still might get some like third-party grips just to have like a more angular grip, because the bottom is still a bit of a flat surface, but like still this already, just on a pure design standpoint, is looking like a substantial improvement.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And you know what? The other thing too, like it's bigger. I don't know if you've ever played games where like you need to hold the Joy-Con sideways in order to play. Like I'm talking a game like Snipper Clips comes to mind for me. I mean, playing those games is just a nightmare, and the buttons being bigger is an immediate upgrade. And I guess continuing on here, we've got kind of a sleek new little, God, I don't even know what you call it, but the red inner part that's sticking out a little bit with the 4 buttons on it, a charging point, obviously. That looks pretty slick too, and again, just a little bit bigger to give you a little bit more room, which is a welcome upgrade for people with big mitts like me.
I gotta tell a small story real quick, since you mentioned the sideways Joy-Cons. So my big experience with that is Mario Kart of all games, because I competed in a Mario Kart tournament, and the tournament organizer forced everyone to use the sideways Joy-Cons, even for people like myself who brought in pro controllers. Oof. To even out the playing field for people who didn't have it. And let me tell you, that was a miserable experience.
Why? Was it like everyone has to be like use this awful mechanism to see who's truly the best, or what was the idea?
No, I think the idea was that, like, hey, not everyone brought a pro controller, and so the people that have pro controllers are going to have an advantage. So to even the playing field, we need everybody to use the sideways Joy-Con. It was really bad.
I might be pushing. I think if you brought a pro controller, you deserve whatever advantage you have.
I brought 2. I'm down to share. I don't care. Like,
yeah, that's well, can I ask how you did in that competition?
I got walloped. I cannot play on the sideways Joy-Con at all.
Yeah, that's fair. It's tough to do, and that's like one of the reasons why I am, any bigger version of the Joy-Con, I'm all about it. So I think that's really cool. I don't know, pretty standard stuff for the rest of it here, except we're getting a good look at the Joy-Cons here. But here is something pretty cool, and this piqued a lot of people's interest. It looks like an attachment that will essentially let your Joy-Con, it looks like, function as a mouse, which could have some pretty big implications for Metroid Prime 4, actually.
So we skipped over probably the biggest, or the biggest feature before that, at least, is that we see the Joy-Cons attaching to the Switch, and one of our, I guess not our first leak, because we've already seen the console design at this point, but like our first feature leak, I guess, is that we have magnetic Joy-Cons pretty much confirmed now, which looks to be, I'm very curious to see how that works. It looks like there's a trigger locking mechanism in the back where you pull, and that will probably disengage the Joy-Con. I have to imagine that it's going to be strong enough to hold. I'm just really fascinated to see how that turns out. But yeah,
I'm pretty sure. Like, I have some magnetic locking stuff, and it requires you to like forcibly yank it off if you want to get it disconnected. So I'm not too concerned about that.
I guess like I'm curious like how strong it's going to be, but also while being safe for children to handle, because I could definitely see like, a child not being careful and having their hand in the middle and then just it going like right on their fingers. And I can't imagine Nintendo would create something like this. And so again, I'm sure that it's going to work fine. I'm sure it's going to be safe. I'm just very curious to see how it functions in real time. And if it does, I think it's going to be, again, a huge improvement over that rail system, which is fine for what it is, but definitely you can definitely see the points of weakness, the flimsiness of it. And also, it's very easy to put a Joy-Con on the wrong side and then it gets stuck and you have to like unjam it. And so I feel like this magnet system, if done properly, is just going to be better across the board.
I don't think I've ever put it on the wrong side, but
me neither. But I've seen people that have, and like,
yeah, you know what? I'm not really concerned about like this. Like even if a kid got their finger in between, like the finger would block the magnet. So I mean, it's not like a guillotine. It's not gonna slap it off. So like that would stop.
It's not gonna cut off the finger, but I mean, it could hurt. Like if the magnetic force like pushes down. I don't know. Again, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm just curious to see how it all functions.
Yeah, we'll see. I feel like that technology is pretty like it's pretty standard. I'm sure that they have that down. But yeah, magnetic Joy-Cons, I think. Like it's an improvement, but to be honest with you, I don't really have an issue with the way that they're done right now. Like there's like a tiny bit of wiggle, I guess, but nothing, at least that I necessarily notice. And like I said, like I play in handheld like 99% of the time. Only play docked for like the big games, Metroid Dread, Zelda, etc. But yeah, let's all right. So let's go back to this mouse thing here, because this looks pretty cool, and this is gonna be, I think this is gonna be huge for some people. And by the way, I can't remember. The Joy-Cons had like the little strappy that came on them, right? Like the safety strap, the original Switch ones?
Yeah.
Okay. It caught me by surprise because I think I threw mine out on day one, and I was like, oh, these mice have tails. Look at them go. But anyways, yeah, there's definitely an attachment that you can, it looks like, I'm assuming maybe you have to buy it separately, but I mean, more or less, it looks like you can move your Joy-Con around kind of like a mouse, which, like I said, leads me to believe that maybe that's going to be an alternate control option for a game like a Metroid Prime 2 to kind of emulate mouse and keyboard controls for first-person shooters, which I think is great. Like I'd probably still take dual analog, but I mean, like if there's players out there that, and I would certainly try this, but like I just think like more control options is always better, and it really kind of opens up the possibilities for like other kinds of games as well, like a Super Mario Maker, for example. I think was a little bit tough to do on the Switch, but really felt right on the Wii U. I think if you have like kind of a mouse more so than you're constantly scrolling menus, I think a game like that is going to work a lot better, and that's probably just the tip of the iceberg here. So really cool idea, and actually, frankly, something that I'm surprised that we never got for the Switch One.
It was actually really interesting. So I could be wrong, but I don't believe mouse function. I don't think anyone claimed in a Switch 2 leak that there would be like a mouse functionality. But what did happen is that during one of the console design leaks, when someone was showing off the build, someone noticed that there was an optical sensor on the bottom that matches, what would be on the mouse that you have.
Right.
And so people started speculating that there would be like a mouse feature in the Joy-Cons. And then that was, I don't want to say confirmed, but very highly hinted at in this trailer where we see them, sliding on the ground and whatnot. And so I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah.
And yeah, pretty much what you said. I think more control options are great. With Nintendo in particular, they can get really creative with alternate control options. So I'm very curious to see how they handle that. Mario Maker is obviously a big one that people are bringing up. It's like, okay, we can finally get a definitive Mario Maker experience with good controls. That would be terrific.
Have people been talking about? I just picked Mario Maker like off the top of my head. I guess that just makes so much sense.
That's like the first game that it's the first one that comes to people's minds. Yeah, and for good reason. What I am curious about though is that obviously if you're using a mouse, you have a mouse pad, you have a desk and a flat surface in front of you to do that. Mm-hmm. When you're playing the Switch 2, most people are not going to be in front of a desk. They're probably going to be on their couch. They might be playing portably. They might not have something to put that on. And so that's another thing I'm really curious about, is to see how that does function, to see if you actually do need that flat surface to operate those mouse functions. Because if so, that is probably going to limit it quite a bit. But if not, there's definitely a lot of potential there, I think.
I mean, I don't see any way that you could do it without a flat surface. Because I think that this is probably geared for people that would rather like play on their PCs for the most part. And if that's maybe the case, maybe they have a rig where their Switch is docked, and then they have their it's basically docked to their computer. They're sitting at their chair, similar to I'm doing it right now, so they're at their desk playing. I think that's kind of the gist that I got watching this, like who this is for. But maybe not. Like you could also just have like your snazzy new kickstand and have it at whatever degree you want, and I don't know, have it play it on your table with your mouse on your table. I don't know, but you're right. I do think that I don't know if you could implement this without a flat surface. I would be very curious to see how that could be done.
See, the thing is, I think this is marketed towards a general audience, though, and not just like a PC gamer audience, because it was specifically in the reveal trailer. I don't think you would market like a very niche feature like that so prominently in the trailer. because because it has like a whole section dedicated to it. It's definitely well, it's not outright confirmed. It's also definitely not a blink and you miss it moment. And I feel like for them to include that, to me, it tells me that they're putting a lot of thought into this feature and that they want as many people to use it as possible. And so I don't know. It still might require a flat surface, but I have to imagine that because why would you just put in a feature that like a very tiny portion of your audience is going to end up utilizing?
I don't know how tiny that portion of your audience is. I think that there may be more people that like to play games on their computer in their computer setup than maybe we think. And like certainly. If let's just say that so obviously I mean this console is going to appeal to the same kind of casual Nintendo fan, but like maybe this is a little bit of a bridge or an olive branch, if you will, to say like to other people playing on PC, hey, we got like not exactly what you're used to, but something close to what you're used to as well on Nintendo Switch if you want an alternative. So I mean yes, I agree with you. It maybe it can have more prominence, but I don't know. Maybe that's just their way too of like showing off the new functions. We'll see, I guess. But it's an interesting concept for sure, and an interesting idea, and a cool idea as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it's one of those things I'm curious to see more in depth, and we certainly will in about 2.5 months.
We certainly will. So we are looking at the sides of the Nintendo Switch console now, and as you pointed out earlier, pretty much all but confirmed. We've got the magnetic locking mechanism there that just slips right into the Joy-Cons. That looks pretty cool and pretty slick. Nice little subtle design too. The colors on the inside, and there it is. That's that's the Nintendo Switch 2, and the whole thing looks really slick. It almost has got that same kind of professional look that the PSP had back in the day.
Yeah, that's like the big thing that I love about it. Was first of all, I really like the texturing that's on this. The first Switch, it had a very smooth texture, which I also think was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of like this. I kind of like this more kind of it has more of a grippy texture, I want to say, like in the back now, which I think not only looks cool, but it's probably going to make it a little bit easier to hold, which I think is very nice. But overall, I like the design, the sleekness, and the coloration of it. I am a sucker for jet black colors with colored highlights. Hello, Phazon suit from Metroid Prime. And so yeah, this console design just totally appeals to me. I love the subtle colorations in the Joy-Con rails and in the bottom of the thumbsticks, while the rest of the console is this sleek, not quite jet black, but like a carbon black almost. And I think it looks really nice, and I'm a big fan of it. And so yeah, usually like when the first Switch came out, I ended up just getting the gray one because I didn't really like the red and blue Joy-Cons. I thought it kind of looked a little bit weird. I think it looks great here as like these little subtle blue and red highlights to differentiate each side. That's just my personal taste.
You know what? I don't mind a little bit of color on the Switch. Like I bought the black Joy-Cons originally, and when those died, I picked up the red and the blue ones, and I don't know, I thought it added a little bit of pop to the Switch. But I like that those colors are highlighted here. Like I feel like if you just have that dark, sleek console, it looks a little bit more slick, right? And it's a little bit less, makes it look less like a toy and more like a I don't know, like your entertainment center, so to speak. So I think that looks really cool. I do have to say, I think if given the choice, I might pick up some colorful Joy-Cons on day one, but maybe not. I don't know. We'll see. I'd have to see what kind of variations there are, but I certainly would be totally fine if it was basically just exactly like this. Because I do think it looks really sleek, and I think it looks nice. So yeah,
big fan of this console design. Again, probably the least important part of the console, but like, still, I'm glad that it looks good.
Yeah, well, the presentation wasn't done there. We got the official name, which is the Nintendo Switch 2. The logo, which you accurately pointed out, it does look like I just made that in MS Paint. But hey, that's okay. You know what? We all weren't expecting like them to reinvent the wheel here, so I think that's fine. And then the trailer wasn't done there yet either. Of course, we did go on to the next portion, and I'm gonna quickly set the table and hand it over to you because I feel like you're a little bit more excited than me about this. But we did indeed get the confirmation of what certainly seems like Mario Kart 9. Pretty much all confirmed here. We got all of our racers here. The card itself looks or the game itself rather looks really nice. The visuals look crisp as you would expect them to. Yeah, pretty cool stuff here. The only thing I didn't like was what they did to our boy Donkey Kong.
Not gonna lie, I don't like this design. I'm gonna be real. Maybe it's something
I think it's terrible.
Maybe it's something that I'll get used to and I'll grow into. But man, I love that original Kevin Bayliss rare design that's been iterated over the years. And it would be one thing if it was just like an alternate skin or one game, but to me, it doesn't just feel like, to me, this feels like a redesign moving forward in the future, like kind of a rebrand, because it's clear that Nintendo has big plans for DK with like the theme park, with his presence in the Mario movie. And I feel like this redesign is going to become a part of it, and just on the offset, I'm definitely not a fan of it.
No, and they basically like Seth Rogen Donkey Kong here. Like, he's got the Mario design look. And you know what? You and I and Dak did a whole long episode on the Super Mario Bros. Movie, which is available over on our Patreon. And I really liked that movie, except for DK. Like, I thought that every Kong in that movie was really off the mark. And so it is a little bit just kind of like, to see this version of Donkey Kong show up, I do have to say.
I don't even necessarily mind his look in the movie, but like I thought it was fine. It's like, oh, this is the movie's interpretation of DK, but now it looks like, oh no, this is just DK moving forward, and that I'm not quite a fan of. And I'm sure, I doubt it's going to be a Seth Rogen DK voice. He's going to be making gorilla noises. I don't think we're going to get I don't think we're going to get any of that, but still, just on a design standpoint, not a fan.
No.
I'll probably adjust to it a little bit, but man, do I prefer that Kevin Bayliss design.
Yeah, me too. And I would have a heart attack and die if I heard Donkey Kong making Seth Rogen sounds like in the actual game. I don't think we're gonna get that, but I get it. Like, the movie just made $1 billion at the box office. Like, you want to have some continuity, but it is a little bit too bad, because I don't want that design in any future DK games. Let's just put it that way. I think DK looks great. But I mean, that aside, that's the one nitpick that I have here. The game looks great itself. We were introduced to our, at least a lot of our usual suspects in multiplayer, or in Mario Kart rather. We got, the regular gang. We got Pauline. We got Rosalina. Some extra characters in there. I'm sure there'll be a million more. Looks like there's bikes. Looks like there's carts. Looks like a Mario Kart game to me. I can't say I'm like over the moon, but
there's a snowmobile. Rosalina is riding a snowmobile in this one, which I find really interesting. There's been a lot of speculation on that, like, hey, is that just an aesthetic choice, or is that like a hint to like some other gameplay feature? There's 24 racers this time, which is pretty massive, because before the max limit was 12, so they're doubling the amount of racers, which also tells me that we're gonna have a lot more characters to unlock and play around with as well, so that's really exciting, I think. Yeah, there's not a lot on one hand, there's not much to go off of, because it's just a few seconds of gameplay, but there's a lot of potential. Like the track, the track looks absolutely massive this time. Like, there's an actual horizon where you can see the track kind of fade off into, and so it looks a lot bigger than like your typical Mario track. I have a feeling this is going to redefine what a Mario Kart is, and I'm really excited to see how it does so. I think that like I feel like starting from like 64 or maybe Double Dash, we've had like a defined Mario Kart experience that's been iterated upon.
Yeah.
I think this next Mario Kart is going to substantially change things up, and as someone whose favorite entry is 8 Deluxe, I actually do think that this is the correct option to make. I don't want an 8 Deluxe with prettier visuals. I want something brand new that I haven't seen before, and I'm pretty optimistic that this is going to be exactly that. So there's not a lot to talk about, at least off the cuff. There's a ton of like really interesting speculation videos and breakdowns. Tris, formerly of Game Explain, did a phenomenal breakdown. I definitely recommend checking out their video if you're so curious. There's also a lot of I'm also a big fan of like the track details in Mario Kart, and this track certainly seems no exception. You have like all the little racer banners and art and all that. You have the Yoshi Burger Shop, which is actually shaped like a Yoshi head in the form of hamburger buns, which I absolutely love. And so the Mario Kart art team always cooks. I also love how much more animated this game looks. It almost has this kind of rubber hose looking animation style when the carts hop. There's this bounciness to the carts where like it'll like actually stretch and whatnot instead of being like, this static metal object. Whereas Mario Kart 8, you had kind of like these cartoon characters that were operating with like not realistic looking carts, but they almost had more realistic looking physics in their animations, if that makes sense. Whereas this, it looks a lot more fluid, and I think it has the potential to. I think it has a lot of potential here. I'm a big fan of Mario Kart animation, and this game looks like it's taken a big step up.
Yeah, I like Mario Kart. It's I don't know. It's never one thing that I am looking. I guess like it's not a console seller for me, but I am excited by it. A couple quick notes there to touch on regarding the snowmobile. First and foremost, I was just like thinking to myself, man, almost 30 years ago we had planes and hovercrafts at Diddy Kong Racing. Like when are we gonna do this in Mario Kart? Like come on, let's go. Let's bring that over. But the other thing too that I really think that judging by the fact that we're going to have 24 racers that's going to be playing at any given point, I really think that is going to take what we've seen in Mario Kart 8 and really kind of ramp it up with the guest characters coming in. Because like I can't think that anyone is really excited to have 24 playable characters, but like half of them are Baby Peach or Cat Daisy or just like those kind of characters, or like I don't know, Mailman Mario or whatever, right? Like I really think like we're gonna see like Link come back from Zelda. I think we're gonna see the Inklings come back. I think you're gonna have your Animal Crossing characters, and I really do think that there is gonna be some more Nintendo characters that come along. Like I could really see this game, to your point, kind of transforming Mario Kart into like almost something closer to Smash Bros. I really could.
Oh, I think we'll see more Nintendo characters, but I think they're going to operate kind of like the third-party characters do in Smash, where, yeah, with Smash Ultimate, we saw a lot more third-party characters, especially in the DLC. It was mostly third-party characters even. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, Smash Brothers at its core is a Nintendo fighting game, and those third-party characters are the guest characters. I think at its core, this is still going to be a Mario Kart, and the majority of that roster is going to be dominated by Mario characters. Where the Nintendo characters we're probably going to see, we're going to see a lot more Nintendo characters, but they're still going to be guest characters. Mm-hmm. But for me personally, that's exactly what I want. I don't really want a Super Smash, but I want a Mario Kart with guest characters. I want to see more really wacky and crazy reps that we've like. I want to see like EGAD join the roster. I want to see some more of the Kongs. Like bring in Cranky Kong, for example. Dixie Kong was in Mario Kart Tour but never quite made it to the DLC. Bring her in. Like she was in Tropical Freeze. She'd be a fantastic addition to the roster. Bring in some of the Mario RPG characters like Fawful, Geno, Mallow. Those would be super tight as well. Like there's so many. The Wario characters like Captain Syrup. There's so many corners of the Mario universe you can pick from that you could really do to create like a really wacky and crazy roster. That's what I would really love to see personally. And then sprinkle in like a few Nintendo characters and maybe even some third-party characters as well while you're at it. I mean, Pac-Man was in the arcade games. Bandai Namco co-developed Mario Kart 8. I would assume that they're helping out with this new one as well. I think Pac-Man would be a great fit. Maybe
what
you
Mario
could
Kart was Rob the Robot in? Was that DS?
Yeah, that was Mario Kart.
Cool.
That was an awesome unlockable.
Yeah, that was
absolutely.
Great.
Bring Rob back. Yeah, and so yeah, I'd be totally down for that. That's pretty much my dream scenario right there in terms of how
I think
of how the non-Mario characters are handled.
Like yeah, because there really is like a lot of cool Mario characters out there, like the ones you mentioned, but they get passed up in favor of like Rose Gold Luigi and stuff. And it's like, come on, like we don't need this. So if there was, let's just say, I don't know, let's just say that there was like 40 characters. I might expect 10 of them at most to be like Nintendo characters, like Link, Isabelle, Inkling, whatever. And I think 10, like that's a good number to cap it at, because you do want them to feel special. And maybe not even 10, but I think like, you have your 20 or so like core Mario characters, and then the next 10 are some of the characters that you just described. Like Captain Syrup would be so awesome, like Fawful would be great, Vivian would be great. There's lots of, and those characters almost to me seem like at that point they might as well just be like Nintendo reps, because they're so far removed from like the Mario universe, like that you would typically know it as, like, the characters you see in Mario Tennis or Mario Party or whatever. So that would be really cool. I would love to see that. I hope you're right.
Yeah, definitely. Kind of just reunite those corners of the Nintendo universe together, because I feel like if you're gonna, this is the game to do it. If you're gonna do that, so
yeah. Very flat track, by the way. The track just goes on, looks like, for forever.
So here's the thing. So I thought that too when I first saw it, because I first saw the reveal on my phone. I didn't have time to check it out on my computer until after work that day. But I did notice there's some shots where you can see the back of the track, and there is a lot more elevation, including what I think is an anti-gravity section in the back as well that twists a little bit. But yeah, the front of that track, when I first saw that, I'm like, that's interesting. It almost kind of reminds me of like the SNES style tracks, or even early Mario Kart 64, where you didn't quite have as much elevation introduced until the later games. But I do think that's just because this is a starting and beginner track. You do start to see a little bit more of that elevation when you look off into specifically the back of the track, when it's like when the camera's facing Mario.
Well, I mean, and the game looks great. I'm sure we're gonna see. I'm sure we're gonna see more of this in the not too distant future, which we'll get back to in just a minute here. But finishing off here, it looks like the dock is basically the same thing. It looks a little bit sleeker, though. I will say it's got the curved edges to it, rather than just kind of the lunchbox gimmick that it was given in the base Switch. So that's cool. We do see the I don't know what's it called, like the Joycon holder that turns it into a kind of faux controller. So that again looks pretty. The grip, thank you, looks pretty standard. A little PSA at the end, plays Nintendo Switch 2 exclusive games as well as Nintendo Switch games. So, and this is kind of an important one. It does say that there are some specific games that may not be fully compatible or may not be supported. So I got to imagine that's like something like a Nintendo Labo or something,
I'm guessing like Labo, maybe like a 1-2 Switch that uses that IR camera on the back of the Switch. There was also the first Super Mario Party that came out. There was that one mini game where like you could like take two Switch screens together, and it would like the tank could move from one screen to the other. Yeah. I think maybe something like that could also be not supported. I feel like 99% of the software is going to be just fine though. So that's expected. I'm not too worried about that.
Pretty much the games you want to play, I think, are going to be available on the Switch too, and digital games as well, which is pretty awesome. So yeah, the everything ends there. We have an official Nintendo Direct set for the 2nd of April 2025, and there is a series of hands-on events all around the world for the Nintendo Switch 2 experience, whatever that means. Unfortunately, I don't think we had any of those in Canada, like anywhere. I could be wrong.
There's one in Toronto that you can sign up for.
I'm closer to you than I am to Toronto. I'll tell you.
Oh,
that. Yeah.
Rip.
Canada's a big place, man. It's a big spot. Basically, it'd be like going to New York for you. So yeah.
Okay.
If you know what, and if you're in any of those cities, that's something that you should definitely try and check out, because I imagine that they got to probably be showing off, like, if not have, I dare say, a playable Mario Kart like that. That'd be pretty sweet.
I have to imagine that would be one of the games there.
I mean, I gotta imagine that might be the only game there, to be honest. I don't know if they're gonna be showing off anything else. I can't remember actually. When are these events supposed to be held? Is it before or after?
They're all going to be in April after the Direct, so I think there's definitely going to be more than just Mario Kart.
Yes, it'll be more than Mario Kart. Yeah, but I would bet the farm that Mario Kart's playable.
Yeah, I signed up to enter the drawing for one of the LA days, so hopefully the fires have receded by then.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, yeah, and hopefully you could do that and report back with some news for us about what the Nintendo Switch 2 is all about there. But
Can't wait to tell you all about how Prime 4 plays.
oh man, and that's the Nintendo Switch 2. You know, I think as a reveal, it's fine. You know, nothing that's gonna light your world on fire, but. I like, again, kind of to reiterate the whole point what we've been talking about, I feel like that's kind of what you wanted from this. Like, you didn't want anything earth-shattering. You just wanted to know that, like, it was going to be a more powerful version of what you already had, and Nintendo delivered on that. It's exactly what we thought. It basically looks like the 3DS equivalent of the Switch's DS. That's exactly what most of us wanted, so... yeah, you know what, I was a little bit let down by the lack of... showmanship, I guess, let's just call it, with this reveal. But all in all, like, pretty, you know, for a 2-minute video, I mean, it pretty much checked off all the boxes that you were looking for what this is, of course.
Yeah, that's the thing that, like, you know, I try to remind people, because, like, when the Switch 1 came out, we literally went from rock bottom to we are so back, like, in an instant, and nothing is ever going to have that level of, like, enthusiasm going into it. Like when the Switch 1 is announced, like, we were ecstatic, we were hyped. We went from, like, again, we went from the Wii U, like the darkest days of Nintendo, to, like, immediately what looked like an incredibly, and eventually did in fact become a very, very bright future. Whereas the Switch 2, you know, we're already coming off this incredible high into something that's, you know, very familiar and expected. And so it's not going to have that same kind of excitement, even if they did show off a little bit more. And so that's something that I think it's important to remind people of. Once we actually see the software, that's when it's going to get real.
Yeah, and like we said, the cool thing is that we have a date for software, and you know, it is a little bit far away, but it's really not. Like, it's really only about 2 months away, so it's going to be here before we know it. That does tell me, though, I don't know, like, if they had the software Nintendo Direct on the 2nd of April, I guess hypothetically you could still launch in June or July. That seems like a tight window to me, but maybe it's not. I don't know. I feel like at this point I might be thinking closer to November or like October or like the fall, let's just say. That would be my initial guess based off that, but who knows?
I disagree with that. So the way that the Switch 1 worked out was you had that reveal trailer, that amazing reveal trailer, but then you had the January presentation where you got the full reveal, the pricing, the launch lineup games, as well as some other stuff in year one like Mario Odyssey, Xenoblade 2. And then 2 months later, you had the March 3rd release.
That is true. Yep, that is true.
I absolutely think you could release in June, and I actually think June is when we'll be, maybe early July, but I'm feeling June for the Switch 2 release. And you know what? I think from there, I don't want to say definitively that Prime 4 is going to be a launch title, but this really feels like it's lining up really good for Prime 4. Because here's the thing. February, it's not launching in February. We would have heard about this game by now if it was launching in February. It's not launching in March because we already got Xenoblade X there. So that's the March slot taken up. That only leaves April. And man, I wish I still had this pulled up because I was actually doing some research earlier about April Nintendo releases. And really the only ones that stuck out to me, there was a couple more, but the only ones that stuck out was like new Pokemon Snap Nintendo Switch Sports and like I think one of the Box Boy games. Those were the only like Nintendo published April releases that I could find. And all of those, even though Nintendo Switch Sports in particular was like a massive sell, I think it's sold like a ridiculous amount, like 15 million or something. That wasn't really positioned as like a major release. Nintendo doesn't use April as their one more thing releases, if you will. Even for something like Metroid, which is a bit more niche, they don't do their one more thing releases in April. So I feel like it has to be May at the earliest.
Yeah.
And so
I mean, I just call me naive, call me crazy. I think we've made it this far. have it as a launch title. Like if we can
I
wait till
agree.
November,
I
we
agree.
can wait till July, we can wait till whenever it's going to be. And I think we all are pretty much on the same page at this point now. And when I say we, I mean Metroid fans. Like I think a lot of us are just like, I'll wait for the version that I want to play it. I can pick if I want to play it on my Switch. I could pick if I want to play it on my Switch too. I have to imagine that it's going to be like I can't see any scenario where this is not a cross-gen game. I really can't.
I agree. Some people on our Discord disagree, but
some people do.
We'll find
you know
out
what?
soon enough.
I take that back. I could see that scenario. I think it would be wrong. I think it would be boneheaded, and I think it would be a real bad thing for Metroid Prime 4. The only, here's my only scenario where that might be, I don't know, like a good thing. I get not even a good thing. I can't say that, but maybe they show it off in the in this direct, and it's available to download digitally right away. And that I don't think is a great option. I would not do that. That's about the only.
They would not shadow drop like a brand new release like that. Like Prime Remastered was like, a remake of a 21-year, or excuse me, 21.
And also it didn't have a physical release at that point either, which I can't imagine that's going to be the same thing for Metroid Prime 4.
Yeah, Prime 4, they're going to announce that release date ahead of time.
Yeah,
there's absolutely no way they would do something like that. I will say though, if there is a February direct, and I actually do think there will be a February like Switch 1 focused direct, I do think we are going to see Prime 4 in that Switch 1 direct as well.
You know what? I don't really think that we're going to see a direct in February, to be honest.
I mean, it's possible. They could very well just do a Twitter drop.
We could see a partner direct or an indie direct. That I could see.
Well, because the thing is, they have no releases in February. They have to release something in the February, specifically because Donkey Kong was in January. And they literally released Donkey Kong the same day as the Switch 2 and the Switch 2 reveal, and it's like, if you didn't space out Donkey Kong for that reveal and there's nothing in February, that means there has to be something in February. I don't know,
that
man.
would be
insane if there isn't. If there was no February release, then they would have either slotted Donkey Kong in February or the Switch 2 reveal in February, but they didn't. They placed them both in January, and February is empty right now. So there has to be something in February. There has to be.
I mean, whatever it is, though, like it's not. At this point, you're pretty much at the end of January, so whatever that is in February is clearly not like a high priority game, or else it would be announced.
It's not going to be a high priority game. It's going to be a very small game, probably another like HD port or something like that. Maybe it's Prime 2 HD.
And in that case, they would just do it on Twitter then, just say like basically what they did with Xenoblade X, where it's like, hey, this game's coming out in March. That I think that is far more likely than like a direct. I mean, I guess we'll see. It'd be cool to have a Nintendo Switch direct.
Maybe like a direct mini. I could see.
I don't even see that. I don't.
Not even a direct mini.
No, I don't. I think like if they're going to release a game in February, which I mean, frankly, they might not do. If they're going to do that,
I can't believe. I can believe them doing a shadow drop on Twitter.
Well, then let me ask you this: like, how long in advance did we know that Donkey Kong and that Xenoblade were coming out, and there's nothing for February, right? Like, I'm not saying that they shouldn't release a game, but I'm just saying like, if they're gonna do it, like, it's definitely not gonna be part of a direct. I don't think, and I don't think that you want to confuse people too with like the Nintendo Switch Direct in February and then the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct in April. That would just be me.
What I'm saying is, I just think that we're getting something in February. Again, probably something very small, but like just the way this release calendar is, like, it would be bizarre not to have something in February when you release because why would you release Donkey Kong on the same day as the Switch 2? Like, that just from a like, I know Nintendo makes bizarre business decisions. This is bizarre even for Nintendo standards, to just decide to release a game on the same day when you have a clear window on another day and not utilize it. That doesn't make sense even for Nintendo. And so I have to believe that we're getting something in February. Again, it's going to be something small, and I don't know what that thing could be, but we're getting something in February.
Yeah, I don't know if I feel as strongly about that as you do, to be like, I mean, you got Civilization 7 coming in February. You got Stories from Saul the Gun Dog, whatever that is.
I'm talking about like a Nintendo published game in February. Like, obviously, there's
I know what you're talking
about.
Switch. I think that we're so close though. I'm not holding my breath. And I don't think they necessarily need one, especially with, what we've got coming on the horizon. I think everyone's probably going to be okay just to say, like, I don't need a new game in February. Let me wait till we see what we got with the Switch 2 here. I'm not saying it couldn't happen though, but I think it would be unlikely, especially because a February Direct, you got to assume you're hopefully going to release those games like right away before the Switch 2 comes out, or maybe, I don't know, maybe it takes you, because if you're thinking the Switch 2 launches in June, like a February Direct is going to show off games that are releasing this month, the next month, and the month after, and maybe in May, and then like that's kind of that. Like after that, you just want to focus on the Switch 2.
I agree, but at the same time, it's not like Switch 1 games are just going to stop being produced after the Switch 2 comes out. I mean, even, you look at the 3DS, which, obviously the Switch pretty much immediately replaced the 3DS, but that system still got a couple of years worth of support with some pretty notable releases. Some of them which definitely should have been, some of them which totally should have been ported to the Switch, like Samus Returns, or maybe the Mario and Luigi remakes.
You're definitely right. I think the key difference there is like that was a completely separate set of hardware versus like the Switch. And I'm not saying that I don't think the Switch one is going to get supported. I do. I think it's going to be more so like for the 3DS, like you couldn't play those games on the Switch, right? So like you kind of had to still support it for a little bit of time. Whereas I think that your support for the Switch might be something more akin to like, we're going to release the Nintendo's 2 Switch version, but we're going to release the Nintendo Switch version 2, and it's just a bit dumbed down. That's what I would suspect.
I agree with that. I also like for example, I think aside from Prime 4, I think Pokemon ZA, that's another big game that people are talking about that people are speculating would be cross-gen. I tend to agree with that. I do also think that you'll just get a couple more smaller Switch 1 games that will naturally be backwards compatible. Like we were talking about this behind the scenes during a different thing that we were recording for a surprise in the future. We were talking behind the scenes about how Nate the Hate heard that there was a Kirby Planet Robobot HD port coming to Switch.
Put that on the Switch.
Andy's super excited.
Bury it on the Switch.
Andy's very excited for that. Who also got the date right for the Switch reveal. So that's something that could definitely be that to me is definitely not a Switch 2 exclusive. That would be an example of like something that would come to the Switch and just happen to be backwards compatible. Maybe you have some enhancements, but even then I could see it just being a raw port with no enhancements and being just fine.
Yeah, maybe I could see that. And to be honest, like I totally believe that game is probably going to come. Like it when you need it, February would be the perfect month actually for Kirby, because it's just like we have nothing scheduled. We forgot about February. Break the glass. What gimmick can we slap on Kirby this time to shovel it out to people, unsuspecting parents buying it for their kids who think Kirby is cute? So yeah, I don't know. I could see that. Maybe you've sold me a little bit there, but. Yeah, I mean, I guess we'll see, and this is kind of the fun part about this whole thing is like you get to speculate, you get to dream big, and you know what? For everyone out there that's gonna say like temper your expectations, I say to you this: let's dream big. We've been waiting for this for a long time. We're gonna have a lot of fun thinking about what could possibly be in that April 2nd Direct. I was even going to talk about it today a little bit, and maybe we could do just like a sneak peek. But I think like we should do like a whole big blowout, like a little bit closer too, and say like this is what we kind of think is going to be on the show, and make a whole big thing of it. I think that's a lot of fun. It's just an exciting time, we finally got some traction on the new console. It's finally. We're finally have an end date kind of in sight, at least for the Direct. I'm sure we'll get pricing information, release information. I'm kind of expecting it to be, $400 American, 500 and change Canadian. I mean that sounds right to me. That's
what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe it's a little bit more expensive. I don't know, but I think it'll probably be in that neighborhood. So really, it's just about the games and when it releases. And the cool thing is too is like I really think we're going to see Metroid Prime 2 on the 2nd of April. Like I think that's the next time we see it, and I think we see a lot of it, which is going to be
You mean Prime
really
4?
Sweet. What did I say? Prime 2?
Yeah, you said Prime 2.
I've got Prime 2 on the brain for unrelated reasons. Yeah, Prime 4, Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. It still feels weird a little bit calling it Beyond.
I know. It's like for 7 years we've gone.
I know.
Not knowing the subtitle, but we're here. Everything is happening, man. We're in a post Switch 2 reveal world. We're in a post Metroid Prime 4 Beyond world. It's a wonderful time.
And Metroid Dread is real. You know what? Actually, Doom. Right before we recorded this podcast, I was showing Sam that video that they put out before Metroid Dread came out, the history of 2D Metroid. I rewatched that for like,
that was awesome.
Oh, dude, this thing is so cool. Like it's I hadn't watched it basically since they put it out, and it just happened to show up on my like feed. So I was like, okay, and like the end when they've got like the main Metroid theme where it's like brown. Like the fades. Oh my god, it looks so cool. So if you haven't seen that in a while, you should check it out. It's really stellar.
It's really well produced. They also did one cool. For they did one recently as well for Donkey Kong to coincide with the HD release as well. Yeah. But obviously the Metroid one hits a lot more home for me.
Although I will say I do love me some Donkey Kong. So here's my sneak peek prediction for this direct that we're seeing on the 2nd. I think we see DK. I think we see Mr. Kong himself. That's all I'll say.
I agree, but I'm not going to, and I mean, like, I'm not talking about just like, Mario Kart or like a sports game. I agree. I'm not going to elaborate any further as well, though.
Yes.
Yes. I'll just say that it's not what you're expecting. At least I don't think it's what you're expecting.
Donkey Konga 2, baby. I have my DK drums in the closet, actually, which is ironic because I never played Donkey Konga, but a friend of mine who's actually since passed away gave me his DK drum, so I've got them in there in case I ever stumble across a copy of it. So yeah, hey, shout out to that. I'd be happy with Donkey Konga 2, man. I think that'd be cool.
Well, I mean, technically, Donkey Konga 2 and 3 were things. 3 was Japan exclusive,
you're right.
But we got 1 and 2.
It
would be Donkey. I don't know. It would be Donkey Konga Returns.
Yeah, Donkey Konga smooth moves. Yeah. All right, my friends. Well, the Switch 2 has been revealed. We don't have to wait much longer to see what kind of software, what kind of price, what kind of release date that is going to be in store for us. April the 2nd. I've got officially confirmed that day off, so I'm going to be streaming it. I think Doom's going to be with me, and we'll even get Allison on here as well. We can do big old crossover, which is going to be a lot of fun. So yeah, subscribe to our YouTube for that, and a lot of other cool stuff that's coming up in the very, very near future. And in fact, what is the 21st? We're gonna have a big announcement on the 1st of February. So you're gonna want to check us out for that. Follow us on Blue Sky. We're gonna have notes posted on OmegaMetroid.com. 1st of February. Check out this big announcement. I never tease announcements, but we're teasing this. Check it out. You don't want to miss this. It's gonna be really cool, and it's gonna be taking place in February. That being said, my friends, we are going to get out of here. We've talked about the Switch 2 reveal. We dragged a 2-minute and 20-second video into a whole hour's podcast, so I think we can pat ourselves on the back for that. Of course, we want you to give us a follow wherever you are over on social. We're at Blue Sky, over at Omega Metroid. I'm at Spiteri316. Doom is at Doom_Cross. And hey, give us a subscription wherever you are getting your podcast from. Like, recommend, rate, review, all that kind of fun stuff. If you've got a Metroid fan in your life, tell them where they can get their weekly Metroid fix. Every Wednesday, new episodes are dropping. And OmegaMetroid.com. That has all of your Metroid needs. We're talking guides, we're talking maps, we're talking strategies for bosses. We are talking news, editorials, thought pieces, music. So much stuff on OmegaMetroid.com. So go and check that out. And like we said, subscribe to that YouTube channel. You are definitely going to want to do that before February 1st. So that being said, my friends, we are going to get out of here. We'd love to know what you thought about the Switch 2 reveal. Let us know over in Discord. Until next week, everybody, take care.